Hello again to this week's video number 3, where we look at the development section of the Moodle. I'm on the home page, so I'm going to go to the site administration and then look at the last tab, development. And we have some areas here that we're going to look at one by one. Some of them look a little bit scary. I had to do a little bit of research again, and that's the whole point of doing a course like this, where we have to actually get involved and carry out some research to learn more about the tasks at hand. We're going to be looking at these one by one. We have two main areas, development and experimental. And basically, the development area of the site administration is where Moodle is tested, fixed, and experimented with. And most teachers and students never go there. This is the first time that I'm in this area of the Moodle. So it's mainly for admins, developers, and testers who want Moodle to work properly before anyone else notices any problems. So very, very useful. And we can think of it as a Moodle's workshop and testing lab. The first part is debugging. And in this case, and what we can see here, it's basically any error messages when something breaks, or a bug, if there's a bug. So debugging, getting rid of those bugs or things. In this case, we have debug messages. None do not show any errors or warnings. So that's the default area. We can also display debug messages, performance info. We also have show origin of language strings, show origin of SQL calls, show validator links, show page information, show template information. But I can see that it is as none or no as default because it is for admins, not for teachers or students or users and users. So if we go back, then the next one is basically Moodle REST API UI Swagger UI. And this one I had to look it up. So I'm just going to share with you what I found. Basically, REST API stands for Representational State Transfer Application Programming Interface. API, I knew from a course I did before and some study and some work that I've been doing on instructional design, digital instructional design. So I knew application programming interface, but I didn't know the acronym REST. And here it's basically shows what it is. And it is like the standard etiquette or architectural style that modern web services like Moodle, Zoom, or a CRM use to talk to each other. So it's like a language, it's an interface, right? So in this case, it says this is the contract. It is the set of definitions and protocols that allows one piece of software to talk to one another. I think this is important. And the analogy is that we can think of the API as a menu in a restaurant. The menu provides a list of dishes you can order along with a description of each. And when you specify what menu items you want, the kitchen or the system does the work and provides you with some finished dishes, the data. You don't need to know how the stove works or where the ingredients are stored. We just need the final result, and that's what it works. That's what it does. For the rest, so REST, representational state transfer, this is the style of the contract. It is not a strict protocol or code, but a set of architectural constraints. For an API to be RESTful, it must adhere to specific principles, most notably the ones listed here that I'm not going to go through at this stage, but just wanted to go through this to get a general idea of what it was. Then moving down, we have basically just summarizing the Moodle REST API Swagger UI. It's a visual tool for testing how Moodle talks to other apps and is used when Moodle connects to mobile apps or external systems. And remember that this section is for developers and admins to test things. So it's the lab to see if things are working. Then the web service test client lets admins test Moodle's web services safely, like doing a practice call before using a real telephone. Then we have purge caches, and this basically cleans Moodle's temporary memory. And it fixes issues where changes don't seem to appear. Sometimes it happens that we make a change and it doesn't show. So clearing or purging the caches is the way to do it, and then closing and reopening the app or the website, and then it usually shows that the change was made. If we go down, we can see third-party libraries. So it shows external tools Moodle depends on, as Moodle doesn't build everything from scratch. In this case, if we click there, we have lots of different third-party libraries that we need. And as Lucia mentioned in her video, there's lots of MIT licensed libraries in this case. So it's very interesting to see that they create lots of those. So thank you, Lucia, for the extra information on that. We then have the hooks overview here, and basically is a list of connection points where extra code can be added, and it basically helps developers extend Moodle without breaking it. I'm not 100% clear about those hooks, and so this is something that I'll need to look into in more detail. Then we have acceptance testing, which means that it checks whether Moodle behaves correctly from a user's point of view, and it basically helps us think of questions like, can a student submit an assignment? And we can go and check whether it does. It happens when we do, or does the quiz open properly? So very important again, because once the course is up and running, we need to come to development to check that things are working properly. Then we have the make test course. And in this case, it creates a fake course for testing, and it's a safe place for experimenting without affecting real students. A little bit like a sandbox, I would say. Then make JMeter test plan, which creates performance tests to see how Moodle behaves under heavy use. For example, useful when many users log in at once, and we see if the Moodle is gonna have any issues that need fixing. Then we have the create testing scenarios, which is linked to the previous one. So we can set up specific situations to test the Moodle. For example, what happens if 500 students submit at the same time? Is it going to clog up the system, or is it going to work smoothly? We then have the PHP unit tests, which are automatic tests that check Moodle's code. Again, this is something that I will need to look into in more detail, because this is the first time as an admin and don't fully understand it. I know that after doing some research, I know that it automatically checks Moodle's code and is like a spell check, but for programming. So the idea, basically, we have to think about a question here would be, how do automatic tests help prevent future problems after updates? So it's useful because after every update, if we check that things are working properly, it means that end users or students, then when they use the activities, they're not going to have problems, because if they do, that's going to have a negative effect. Not very good user experience for them. We're going to have to go in then and fix it. But if it can be avoided, then we definitely need to check it first. Then we have the template library, which shows reusable page designs, and it keeps Moodle's look consistent and tidy. And then we have the XML DB editor, database editor, which is basically a tool for managing Moodle's database structure. It is an advanced tool, powerful, but the recommendations in the research that I did say, use it carefully. So don't change anything if you are not 100% sure about that. Finally, we have the experimental section where we can find the experimental settings, and it controls how experimental features behave. So used by sites that like trying new things early in this case. And then we have database migration, which helps Moodle move Moodle data safely when upgrading or changing systems. As well, it ensures data isn't lost during big changes, and making a backup and then keeping it safely, make the update, the changes necessary, and then back up the data, which is very important. We don't want to miss any important data. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was useful. It was very useful for me because it made me think of and become aware of areas that I had little or no experience of in terms of Moodle admin, in terms of development, because I've mostly used it as a teacher or as an end user, as a participant. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.